Okay, everyone, we're back at W5 at Invasion 3, and with me at the minute I have Mr. Richard LaPermentier, who played Admiral Conan Motti, is that right?
Admiral Motti.
Just Motti.
Who later became Conan Antonio Motti.
That's right, yes. So, firstly, it's an absolute honour to speak to you.
Well, thank you. Thank
you. From a personal view, I'm Owen as well, a lot of people, the thing that I always loved most about your character was that you were one of the only people in the whole saga to stand up to Vader.
Yeah. Well, me and Boba Fett.
Yes.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always admired that. Also, you were the first person that Vader did anything. You know, up until he met you on the Death Star, he was just basically a bully in a black suit. Whereas you were the guy that really
first
took it
time
out.
You see the dark side of the Force.
Yes. So
yeah.
I mean.
So it is. I'm told the most famous Darth Vader moment in all 6 films.
I would absolutely believe it. Tell me about the thing with your throat. Is that something that? What's the story behind that? Because it's so.
George
famous.
wanted me to fall on the floor and roll around, and some people can wiggle their ears, so I can do that. So the cameraman loved it, and said, "No, that really looks like he's doing something to you." So that's what we did. So George said, "No, that's great. We'll do that." So they reset the shot, which literally added an extra day of filming.
Right.
Because to keep it tight on the table, in fact, it was actually more than a day's extra filming. If I just rolled on the floor, they would have got some quick reaction shots from everybody, and then they would have moved on. But because I did it at the table, they had to get everyone else's reaction around the table. So there were, 8 characters, so that was, you'd have to do it from 3 angles per character, and my point of view, Vader's point of view, everybody's point of view, so it took a long time.
And absolutely worth it, because I mean,
it's absolutely made the moment, yeah.
Yes, and of course, you know, while you didn't appear with Harrison Ford, you did, of course, star with Tarkin himself, Mr. Peter Cushing.
Oh, yes.
Tell us, how was Peter Cushing? I mean, an absolute legend.
Well, he was very taciturn. He was more or less. He told us that he was waiting to meet his wife, who had died a few years before.
Right.
So he was very, very ethereal, and he smoked handmade cigarettes from Freiburg and Trayer, an old tobacconist in London, and it was a very rich Turkish blend, which I could still smell to this day, but they were rolled in very thin rice paper. So in order to stop him getting nicotine stains on his hands, he would put on a white linen glove to smoke a cigarette. And he smoked incessantly. When he wasn't on set, he would be lighting a cigarette. He'd be putting on the glove and lighting the cigarette.
One thing actually I wanted to ask you about, I'd heard that he wore slippers on the set. Is that a myth?
We all had our shoes off.
You all had your shoes, because the heat is so warm, is that?
It was so hot. It was so very hot.
Right.
So we had, sitting around the table, we all had our jodhpurs unzipped and in our stocking feet. I faintly remember him having a pair of slippers because it was, again, a very dirty studio floor. I just went around in stocking feet, really, and so did everybody else. But but I think he did have a pair of slippers that somebody found him in wardrobe.
So we'll never look at that scene the same way.
No,
just to think of whether you tried to throw it up.
Well, no, I found out something about, do you know John LaPermentier, the actor from Dad's Army? He's a very famous old English actor, played the sergeant. Mm-hmm. Well, I found out last week that he was he had a penchant for smoking lots of marijuana through his entire career. And I watched an episode of Dad's Army last week, and I said, he is stoned. so I can never look at Dad's Army again without thinking, God, he must have just rolled a big joint up before he went out there.
Absolutely off his head.
Oh, God.
Just one other the films have just been announced. They're coming back into theatres here now in 3D.
Well, yeah, here they're going to start with, he's going to do it chronologically.
That's right, yes, with episode 1 and then...
Which I find strange, because I thought he would have done the trilogy first, because there'd be less to do. Because I read an interview with the director of special effects at Lucasfilm, at ILM, and to do episode 1 is going to be so meticulous.
Because of the digital...
Yeah, I mean, to go back, whereas if you did the trilogy, you could go back and you could retrofit that fairly easily, I would think. But they virtually more or less have to reshoot the...
Sorry, we're back now. Sorry about that.
All right. So they'll virtually have to shoot the entire film in the computer again. Because if they don't do it quickly, if they do it quickly, you'll end up with a really bad dark print.
Yes.
So to actually do it right, and they will want to do it right, it's going to take a long time. So I don't know, by the time they get to episode 4, my God.
They are. They're talking about every year. So
yeah, well, I'm sure they can work fairly quickly. But it's going to be, I know they'll probably the first, I know because the Blu-ray's coming out in 2012.
That's right, yes. So, and will you be going again to see it yourself? Would it be something, would you watch the film yourself again, or would you,
Yeah, I mean, I've seen them all again when they came out. I mean, I still have, I still think, I don't like the special edition as much as I like the original, I mean, Han did shoot first, and I don't like the Bantus all over Mos Eisley either. I just thought there was a charm about those sequences that where you didn't really need to mess with them.
Yeah, well, I think the Han thing.
And you didn't
a lot
really
of people.
need Han shooting.
It ruins his character.
Greedo shooting first, absolutely.
Yeah, but I think we know you're very busy. And we're going to let you go, but thank you very much.
My pleasure.
It's an absolute pleasure to speak to you.